DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. Topic here today is closing the time gaps. And time is something that, if you watch these vids or follow my masterclass, you know I talk about time a lot. And time is something that you start to think about it a lot more the more you progress in life. The older you get, the more you think about time, because the more you start to realize, hey, this doesn't just keep going on and on and on. It's not like I'm that old, but the further you get, you're like, damn, all right, there are things that I wanted to achieve by this point that maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Maybe you see people who may be older than you, and they're talking about things that they want to do, and you're thinking, all right, I want to be at least there by the time I get to this point, and you're realizing, all right, the only real decider in this whole thing is time. Of course, it's you get to do stuff, but time is the most important aspect, most important asset that we have control over, because it's the only one that's not replenishable. That meaning, if you use it unproductively, you can't get it back. You can't just say, all right, let me get that 5 minutes back, let me get that day back. If you use $1,000 unproductively, you can go make more money back. You can make $10,000 back the next day, but you cannot make any amount of time back, even 1 minute, hour, a day, let alone a year. So closing time gaps is about moving from one task to the next with little space in between activities. And the reason that this matters is, well, there's a couple of reasons why it matters. Number one is that this allows you to get more things done over the course of your days, weeks, months, and years, because you're producing a gap. Number two, it allows you to stay at your peak level of productivity, because understand that focus is a force multiplier, meaning the longer you can stay focused on a thing, the stronger your focus becomes. So if you're already locked in on doing task number one, and then you move immediately to task number two, you are going to have a higher level of focus when you move to task number two if you don't allow a gap there than if you did allow the gap. If you allow the gap, then your focus goes back down because you checked social media or you check your text messages. Now you got to ramp the focus back up before you move on to task number two, or before you get to that highest level of focus again during task number two. This is why that a gap in between does matter, not only with the time, but it also matters with your level of focus. And if you're not at your highest level of focus while you're doing a task, you're not doing it at your best possible level, so you're still not optimized in terms of your performance. This matters, and a lot of people don't talk about that. Third thing is that it builds the habit. It builds the habit of moving from one task to the next with very little space in between, or ideally no space in between. So now you're getting a whole lot more done over the course of a day, and those days compound into weeks, months, and years, and then you have so much more done than most everybody else does, or even more than you previously were getting done. And other people look at you and wonder, how are you getting so much done? How are you such a productive individual when that's not even the situation? I mean, you are productive, but it's not like you're some superhuman. It's simply that you have habits that other people don't have. And I want you all to understand that the main thing that makes the difference between people in life and the outcomes that we end up getting is not that somebody is just so much better than other people, or that they have resources or access to things that other people don't have, even though they may have those things, even though they may be better than other people. The main thing that makes the difference is the habits, because habits compound over time. The actions that derive from habits, they make a small difference today, a little bit bigger difference in a week, bigger in a month, bigger in a year, and over a lifetime they make a huge difference, to the point that you can't even tell that these two people used to be close to each other, because the habits of one and the habits of the other create such a big gap between them. I talk about this in my book, The Third Day. I call it the separation day. Every time you exercise a habit that another person's not exercising, a productive one that is, it creates a little bit of gap between you and them, and then those little tiny gaps compound on top of each other, just like compound interest compounds in money, and all of a sudden the gap is really wide, to the point that, again, you wouldn't even be able to tell that this person and this person used to be pretty equal in terms of output and in terms of results. That's the same thing you can do for yourself compared to yourself, or compared to other people, when you are exercising the right habits. But all of this, none of this goes into motion until you, first of all, understand what the right habits are, and secondly, you start executing on those habits. And I'm telling you what one of those habits is right now, which is closing your time gaps and not allowing gaps of time in between things. This goes right along with the last video I did when I was driving, when I talked about putting yourself under extreme time deadlines and putting yourself under time pressure, because what this does is it closes time gaps and it forces you to get things done in these small windows of time, instead of giving yourself these big windows, and then you allow Parkinson's law to come into play. Well, Parkinson's law comes into play either way, but Parkinson's law states that tasks will expand or contract given the amount of time allotted for them to get done. So if I give myself an hour to get something done, to go to the grocery store, for example, I will take an hour to go to the grocery store and come home. But if I give myself 30 minutes to go to the grocery store and come back, I will get the whole trip done in 30 minutes. Get the same groceries, same store, same trip, same everything. Just because I had 30 minutes, I got it done in 30 minutes. Why? Because this is just how human beings are. We tend to conform to expectations. So if the expectation around us is you have 30 minutes to get this task done, we conform to that and we get it done in 30 minutes. But if I gave myself 15 minutes, I conform to that and I get it done in 15 minutes. And the good thing about all of us, me, you, and everybody else, is that we are extremely adaptable. Human beings are very adaptable creatures, meaning whatever circumstance you put a person in, we tend to adapt to that circumstance and adjust to that circumstance, and we will make it work in the circumstance that we're given. So for example, if you're used to sleeping 8 hours a night, then all of a sudden you get thrown into an environment where you can only sleep 4 hours a night. Within a few days, maybe a week at the most, you'll be performing at a pretty standard level, even though you're only getting 4 hours of sleep, but you're used to getting 8. Why is that? Because again, you will adjust, you will adapt. I'm telling you that to say, if you're used to taking an hour to do something, but instead you start giving yourself 30 minutes, you will find yourself able to get it done in 30 minutes, and you'll be like, damn, why did I not do this before? You always had the ability, it's just you never forced yourself to do it. And when you force yourself into a situation, again, human beings, especially you who's a high-level performer and a person who's serious about success, you will adjust to the situation that you put yourself in. And it's even better when you force yourself into the situation, because you're making yourself get better rather than having the situation forced upon you. So start using this right now and start closing your time gap. Stop giving yourself all this extra time to get things done, because that time compounds too. And before you know it, 10 years then gone by, you're 10 years older, you're not closer to your goal, and you're wondering what the hell happened all that time that you thought you had to get to your goals. Well, what happened to it is that you were allowing it to be wasted because the structure of your life set it up for that time to get wasted. But when you set up the structure instead so that that time cannot be wasted, well, guess what happens? All of a sudden you're getting a whole lot more done. You're living a much more fulfilled life, and you're achieving everything that you said you were going to achieve. How's that sound? Sound good? Good. Work on your game. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. You want to work with me directly, have me as your direct coach. That's the place that it happens. It's WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Links down below in the description. Our 4-part pillars: mindset, strategy, systems, accountability. Work on your game. Dre all day.